Picture this: a friendly, respected family doctor, someone you trust with your life. For hundreds of families in the small English town of Hyde, this man was Dr. Harold Shipman. He was a pillar of the community, known for his compassionate bedside manner. But behind this comforting facade lurked a monster, a man who would become Britain's most prolific serial killer. This is the chilling story of Dr. Death. Harold Frederick Shipman was born in Nottingham, England, in 1946. He was a bright student and grew up in a working-class family. A pivotal moment in his young life was watching his mother battle terminal lung cancer. He was fascinated by the way morphine eased her pain in her final days. This early exposure to medicine and mortality seemed to set him on his path. He went on to study at Leeds School of Medicine, graduating in 1970. He started his career as a junior doctor, and by 1974, he was a general practitioner at a medical center in Todmorden, West Yorkshire. It was here that the first red flags appeared. A year into his practice, Shipman was caught forging prescriptions for a painkiller called pethidine for his own use. He was fined and briefly attended a drug rehabilitation clinic. Shockingly, this serious breach of conduct didn't end his career. He received what amounted to a slap on the wrist and, by 1977, was back practicing medicine at the Donnybrook Medical Center in Hyde, near Manchester. For the next 15 years, he built a reputation as a dedicated, hard-working doctor. He eventually established his own successful single-doctor practice in 1993. His patients, mostly elderly women, adored him. They saw him as a kind, attentive physician who would even make house calls, a rarity in modern medicine. No one suspected a thing. The truth began to unravel in 1998, thanks to the concern of a local undertaker, Deborah Massey. She noticed an unusually high death rate among Shipman's patients. More alarmingly, a surprising number of them were being cremated rather than buried, which she found odd. Massey wasn't just seeing a pattern. She was seeing a statistically impossible number of death certificates signed by one doctor. She shared her concerns with another local doctor, Dr. Susan Booth, who also found the numbers disturbing. They alerted the coroner, but their initial warnings were dismissed. A secret police investigation was conducted, but they found no evidence to charge Shipman. They concluded he was just a caring, if unconventional, doctor. This tragic misstep allowed Shipman to kill at least 3 more people. The case was finally blown wide open by one victim's daughter, Angela Woodruff. Her mother, Kathleen Grundy, a wealthy 81-year-old former mayor of Hyde, had died suddenly in June 1998. Shipman had been the last person to see her alive and had recorded the cause of death as old age. But Angela, a solicitor herself, was immediately suspicious. She found it strange that her active and healthy mother would die so unexpectedly. Her suspicions intensified when she discovered a new will had been created just before her mother's death. This new will was crudely typed, and it left Kathleen Grundy's entire estate, worth nearly £400,000, to Dr. Harold Shipman. The will explicitly disinherited Angela and her children. Angela knew something was terribly wrong. She went straight to the police, convinced the will was a forgery and that her mother had been murdered. This time, the police had to take it seriously. They exhumed Kathleen Grundy's body. The autopsy revealed a fatal dose of diamorphine, medical-grade heroin, in her system. This was the smoking gun. Diamorphine was the same drug Shipman had been fascinated with as a boy, the same drug he prescribed to his dying mother. On September 7, 1998, Harold Shipman was arrested. The investigation that followed was a monumental task. Police began a systematic review of all the deaths Shipman had certified. They exhumed more bodies, and a horrifying pattern emerged. One after another, the autopsies revealed lethal doses of diamorphine in elderly female patients who had died suddenly and unexpectedly after a visit from their trusted doctor. Shipman's method was chillingly simple. He would visit his victims, mostly older women living alone, at their homes. He would inject them with a fatal dose of the opioid, then either wait for them to die or leave them to be found later. He would then falsify their medical records to create fabricated health problems, making their deaths appear natural. He would then sign the death certificate, often encouraging the families to cremate the bodies to destroy the evidence. The police were also able to recover incriminating evidence from Shipman's computer. He had a habit of altering patient records after their deaths to support his fabricated causes of death. Digital forensics experts could see the timestamps, proving he was changing the files posthumously. For example, in Kathleen Grundy's case, he created entries suggesting she had been a secret drug addict. It was a clumsy attempt to explain away the diamorphine, but it was just another nail in his coffin. The police also found the typewriter used to forge Grundy's will in Shipman's home. His fingerprints were on the will, but Grundy's were not. The case was airtight. In October 1999, Harold Shipman's trial began. He was charged with the murders of 15 of his female patients, as well as the forgery of Kathleen Grundy's will. Throughout the trial, Shipman was arrogant and defiant. He showed no emotion as the families of his victims gave heartbreaking testimony. He offered no explanations for his actions and maintained his innocence, portraying himself as the victim of a witch hunt. He claimed the patients had died of natural causes and that his medical records were accurate. His defense was weak and fell apart under the weight of the overwhelming forensic and digital evidence. On January 31, 2000, after 6 days of deliberation, the jury found Harold Shipman guilty on all counts, 15 counts of murder and 1 of forgery. The judge sentenced him to 15 consecutive life sentences, with a recommendation that he never be released. The judge called his crimes a calculated and cold-blooded perversion of his medical skills. But the story doesn't end there. The 15 murders were just the tip of the iceberg. Following his conviction, the British government launched a massive public inquiry, known as the Shipman Inquiry. The inquiry, led by Dame Janet Smith, spent 2 years meticulously examining thousands of medical records and death certificates. Their final report was staggering. It concluded that Harold Shipman was responsible for killing at least 218 of his patients between 1975 and 1998. The true number is likely even higher, possibly over 250, as some cases lacked sufficient evidence for a definitive conclusion. This makes him one of the most prolific serial killers in modern history. The victims were primarily elderly women, with the oldest being 93 and the youngest a 41-year-old man. The inquiry exposed systemic failures in the medical profession and the legal system that allowed Shipman to continue killing for over 2 decades. It highlighted the lack of oversight for general practitioners, the ease with which death certificates could be falsified, and the deference given to doctors, which made it difficult for concerns to be taken seriously. The report led to widespread changes in the UK's healthcare system, including stricter controls on controlled drugs, reforms to the death certification process, and improved monitoring of doctors. So why did he do it? What was the motive behind these senseless killings? This is the question that continues to haunt everyone involved. Shipman never confessed, never explained, and never showed any remorse. He took his secrets to the grave. On January 13, 2004, the day before his 58th birthday, Harold Shipman was found dead in his cell at Wakefield Prison. He had taken his own life. Theories about his motive abound. Some speculate it was a twisted form of euthanasia, a God complex where he believed he had the right to decide who lived and who died. Others suggest it was a reenactment of his mother's death, a morbid obsession with the process of dying. The attempted theft from Kathleen Grundy suggests a financial motive in at least one case, but for most, there was no financial gain. Perhaps it was the ultimate exertion of power, the thrill of holding life and death in his hands, hidden in plain sight. We will likely never know for sure. The legacy of Harold Shipman is a dark and complex one. He shattered the sacred trust between doctor and patient and forced an entire nation to question the integrity of those they rely on for care. His story is a chilling reminder that evil can wear the most ordinary and respectable of masks. It serves as a grim lesson on the importance of vigilance, accountability, and the courage to speak up when something feels wrong, even when challenging a figure of authority. Thanks for watching. If you found this story as chilling and fascinating as I did, please hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into true crime cases. Let me know in the comments what you think Shipman's motive was. Stay safe, and see you next time.